So today, I feel like reading from Ruth. Well, I've been felt like reading from Ruth, but I had some strikes on my YouTube page, so I had to wait a week to live stream. All right, so I'm just gonna jot down some questions that come to my mind. Why do I hear myself in the background? Super weird. All right. I don't know what that was about. Anyway. Okay. So, like I said, I am reading Ruth today. Before I start my day, I'm using my Study Life Application Bible. I don't know if you can see with the light. Let me. Okay. Well, hope you got that. Because I did the best that I could do. Okay, so the first question, and these questions aren't necessarily going to be answered, it's just things that come to my mind. Who is Ruth? That's what I want to know. All right, so let's see. So, based on this book, the purpose of this book says to show how three people remained strong in character and true to God even when the society around them was collapsing. I'm actually going to write that. I think that's important. Now, I've heard this story so many times, but I've never actually read it. So that is why I'm going to go ahead and read it today. Okay. Based on my Life Application Bible, it says that the author is unknown. Some think it was Samuel, but it could have been written after his death. So we don't know really who wrote Ruth, I guess. Some people might know. I don't know. I'm just reading my Bible. The original audience, the people of Israel. The setting is a dark time in Israel's history when people lived to please themselves and not God. Oh, I think that's important. Because I know during a certain time, there was a lot of idolization going on. Okay, so this book takes place history. Oops. Okay. All right. Oops. Okay. Oh, I just dropped a bookmark. Obviously, I was trying to keep a spot. Man, I don't know what it was. All right. So here we go. When someone, and this is just not like the very beginning, it's like a little excerpt before. See? So we're not actually like starting. All right. When someone says, let me tell you about my mother-in-law, we expect some kind of negative statement or anecdote. That's because the mother-in-law caricature has often been used in humor and comedy. The book of Ruth, however, tells a different story. Ruth loved her mother-in-law, Naomi. Okay, I'm going to put that in my notes. We'll say, who is Ruth? We'll say daughter-in-law to Naomi. Cool. Wait, but how do I... Oh. Wait, how do I get to a 2? Do I have to like... That's one thing. When I do bullets, I can never figure out, like, when I indent over, how to start that. Let me real quick. Because we can't be... Okay. I need to get to 2. Do I just type 2? No. We might not be doing no indentations. Because how do I get back? Seriously. How do I get back to 2? Oh. Okay, tab. No, that's not right. I might not be able to, because this is going to bother me. How do I get back to 2? This is interrupting my video. I push tab, it goes all the way over. Spacebar does nothing. Enter. Okay, I don't want that though. Oh my god, like why? Enter. Okay, it gives me B, but I don't want B. What if I tab here and then do enter? How do I get to 2? You know what? Enter. Because what are you doing? I don't understand. Now I gotta enter tab. Enter tab. And I'm gonna have to copy and paste because I don't know how to do it. So okay. Because anyway, that was confusing for me. Back to what I was saying. So Ruth loved her mother-in-law, Naomi. Recently widowed, Ruth begged to stay with Naomi wherever she went, even though it would mean leaving her homeland. She ended her plea with, wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Naomi agreed, and Ruth traveled with her to Bethlehem. Okay? So I'm going to make a note because I think that's important. Ruth was widowed and chose to stay by her mother-in-law's side. Okay. I don't remember them traveling to Bethlehem, but that's what the book says. Maybe I never knew, but that's why I'm reading it. Okay. Not much is said about Naomi except that she loved and cared for Ruth. Obviously, Naomi's life was a powerful witness to the reality of God. Ruth was drawn to her into the God she worships. In the succeeding months, God led his young Moabite widow to a man named Boaz, whom she eventually married. As a result, she became the great-grandmother of David and an ancestor in the line of the Messiah. What a profound impact Naomi's life had. God led this young Moabite widow. So Ruth was a Moabite, which I do remember learning. Ruth was a Moabite. She said she was the widow, right? Yeah. Okay, as a result, As a result, she became the great-grandmother of David and an ancestor in the line of the Messiah. What a profound impact Naomi's life made. The book of Ruth is also the story of God's grace in the midst of difficult circumstances. Ruth's story occurred during the time of the Judges, a period of disobedience, idolatry, and violence, which I read over here on the side that the setting of this story takes place in Israel's history when people lived to please themselves and not God. Even in times of crisis and deepest despair, there are those who follow God and through whom God works. No matter how discouraging or antagonistic the world may seem, there are always people who follow God. He will use anyone who is open to him to achieve his purpose. Ruth was a Moabite, and Boaz was a descendant of Rahab, a former prostitute from Jericho. Nevertheless, their offspring continued the family line through which the Messiah would come into our world. So Ruth was a Moabite, which I already wrote down, and Boaz was a descendant of Rahab, a former prostitute from Jericho. Sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. Ruth was a Moabite. Boaz, how you spell descendant? Oh, descendant from Rahab, former prostitute. Woo! God can't work. Former prostitute. Did I not spell descendant? Because why is it doing that? Descend. Oh, okay. This is supposed to be a. Okay. All right, the blueprints. I'm just reading everything that the pages offer. I might read this part after, though, actually. Yeah. All right, we'll start. So, chapter 1. This is a small chapter. I mean, a small book. So, I'm going to try to get through all of it before I start my day. All right. Ruth remains loyal to Naomi. That's the subtitle, just so y'all can kind of see. And I'm not looking at the live broadcast because I'm on my slide screen, so I hope y'all can see. This is what I just read right here. It's kind of like little subtitles. Ruth remains loyal to Naomi. Why do you keep saying that? Naomi. I'm sorry, girl. I'm butchering your name. Please forgive me wherever you are. Naomi. Who's Naomi? I'm sorry. Woo. All right. It says, in the days, sorry, I can't stop laughing. In the days when the judges ruled in Israel, a severe famine came upon the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah left his home and went to live in the country of Moab, taking his wife and 2 sons with him. The man's name was Elimelech. And his wife was Naomi. Okay, so that's something that I want to know. I'll do it on here. Who is Ruth? Daughter-in-law to Naomi. Now we know her husband's name. I'll say widow to Amelion. Amelilah. Sorry, I did that on purpose. So forgive me. I'm just being mad. Elimelech. Okay. So we know that Ruth is the daughter-in-law to Naomi, and she's the widow of Elimelech. Got it. So Elimelech is Naomi's son. I never knew his name. I always heard the story about Ruth and never knew what her husband's name was. Oh, wait, Naomi. Oh, Elimelech is Naomi's husband. Oh, okay. And went to live in the country of Moab, taking his wife and 2 sons. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife was Naomi. Okay, not Ruth. So what is Ruth's husband's name? Okay. So who is Ruth? So let's erase this. And let's say who is Naomi right here. Who is Naomi? Question mark. Naomi is the widow to Elimelech. Copy. Okay. Solved. Reading is fundamental. Here we go. Didn't slide. All right. All right. So Elimelech is Naomi's husband. Got it. Their two sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in the land of Judah, and when they reached Moab, they settled there. Then Elimelech died, and Naomi was left with her two sons. The two sons married Moabite women. One married a woman named Oprah, and the other a woman named Ruth. But about 10 years later, both Mahlon and Chilion died. This left Naomi alone without her two sons or her husband. So I don't know if I'm going to know which person Ruth was married to. We'll go ahead and just Ruth's kids' names. Mahlon and Chilion, widow to Elimelech, mother to Chilion, Mahlon. Okay. Okay, this left Naomi alone with her two sons, without her two sons or her husband. Dang. All right. Then Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had blessed his people in Judah by giving them good crops again. So Naomi and her daughters-in-law got ready to leave Moab to return to her homeland. All right, so the two daughter-in-laws are Moabites. Got it. With her two daughters-in-law, she set out from the place where she had been living, and they took the road that would lead them back to Judah. So they moved to Moab. The sons married two Moabites. They left Moab and went back to their homeland, which I guess was Judah. Blessed people in Judah. She was living, they took the road, back to Judah. Okay. Naomi's sons and husband died. So they left Moab and went back to Judah. Okay. But on the way, Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, "Go back to your mother's homes, and may the Lord reward you for your kindness to your husbands and to me. May the Lord bless you with the security of another marriage." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they all broke down and wept. Well, if you know this story, we know Ruth stayed and the other girl left, but we're not there yet. All right, let's read some comments from the bottom. We went up to 9. The story of Ruth takes place sometime during the period of the rule of Judges. Let me just show you guys. Right now I'm reading down here, which is where like the life application part starts, where they have like additional comments and things to help kind of clarify what's going on, questions for you to ask yourself, and things like that. I feel like I have a booger. Oh, I don't. Okay, I'm sorry. So the story of Ruth takes place sometime during the period. You know what? I'm doing all this. Did I? Oh, okay. I was like, did I even push live? Sorry, my mind. ADHD. The story of Ruth takes place sometime during the period of the rule of the judges. These were dark days for Israel, when all the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. But during those dark and evil times, some still followed God. Naomi and Ruth are extraordinary examples of loyalty, friendship, and commitment to God and to each other. Okay, I think that's worth noting. That's important. Because see how their friendship and their bond was? Extraordinary examples of loyalty, friendship, and commitment. So if you're ever maybe confused what good friendships are like, what good loyalty is like, this is an amazing story that you can go back to reference. Naomi and Ruth, great examples of loyalty, friendship, and commitment. So how do I get another slide soon? Right here. Oh, but I'm not ready for it. Okay. Okay, amazing. Okay, amazing. Okay. Moab, the land east of the Dead Sea, was one of the nations that oppressed the Israelites during the period of the Judges. Moab, the land east of the Dead Sea, was one of the nations that oppressed the Israelites during the period of the Judges. So the two nations were hostile to each other. The famine must have been quite severe in Israel for Elimelech to move his family there. Even if Israel had already defeated Moab, relations still would have been tense between them. Elimelech and his family were called Ephrathites because Ephrath, what did I say? Ephrathites, Ephrathites, because Ephrath was an earlier name for Bethlehem. Okay, so is Judah and Bethlehem the same thing? I don't understand that. Lord has blessed his people in Judah by giving them good crops. Okay. Moab, the land east of the Dead Sea. Okay. Even if Israel had already defeated Moab, relations still would have been tense between them. Amalek and his family were called Ephrathites because that was an Lord. Literally, like, Lord, what are these names? Amalek and his family were called Ephrathites because Ephrath was an earlier name for Bethlehem. Okay, but where does Judah come in then? Because the scripture says Judah, but now this part says Bethlehem and Ephrathites. Oh, let me look at the map. Look, it gives me a little map. That's why I like this Bible, because it kind of gives me timelines, maps. I don't know if y'all can see that. Hopefully you can. But I'm trying to figure it out. I need a bigger map, but that's okay. Because, like, is Judah and Bethlehem the same thing? Is Israel, like, the country, and Judah and Bethlehem are inside? You know, I'm not trying to sound stupid, but I'm really wondering, because I don't know. Maybe I need to put this in my questions. Like, who are these people? Something for me to look at later, because I don't know. I'm not good with geography and stuff, so I really don't know the answers to this. So what's my question? Elimelech and his family were called Ephrathites because Ephrath was an early name for Bethlehem. But then up here, it says that Naomi heard that the Lord had blessed his people in Judah by giving them good crops. So they returned to their homeland. Oh, so a man from Bethlehem in Judah, in the days when the judges ruled in Israel. Okay, so Israel's the whole thing, I'm assuming. In the days when the judges ruled in Israel, a severe famine came upon the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah. So Bethlehem's the city and Israel's the country. But what is Judah? In Judah what? So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, I'm going to have to move on. Okay, so Israel's the whole thing. Bethlehem is in Israel. And I don't know what the Judah is. I'm just going Bethlehem in Judah, question mark. What is Judah? Like, what? That's what I want to know. What is Judah? Is it a country? Is it a city? Is it a town? Give me the answer. All right. Moving on. Friendly relations with the Moabites were discouraged, but probably not forbidden, since the Moabites lived outside the promised land. Marrying a Canaanite, or the other people living within the borders of the promised land. So a Canaanite was in reference to people living within the borders of the promised land. Okay, so hold on. The whole sentence says, marrying a Canaanite, however, was against God's law. And a Canaanite were people that lived within the borders of the promised land. Okay. Do I start a new slide now, maybe? Yeah, let's go to the other slide. How do I do that? Ooh, I said chapter 1 through 4. I can't even get through 1. What time is it? I got stuff to do. Okay, so 6. Oh, but I have to start over. But can I say 7? What happens if it? No, it doesn't work that way. Oh, okay, so I have to start over, which is fine. It is what it is. So format. Okay, what if I make this 7? Oh no, it didn't. It didn't give what I was gonna give. Okay. Okay, so what am I writing? Where did it go? Okay. Marrying Canaanites was forbidden, and these were people living on the borders of the promised land. Okay. That is how you spell promise. Why are you giving me squiggly marks? I don't even know how to work my laptop. This is ridiculous. How do I right click? Yeah. You want me to capitalize it? I don't understand. I know I'm not spelling promise. You know what? I know how to spell promise. Okay, moving on. Moabites were not allowed to worship at the tabernacle because they had not let the Israelites pass through their land during the Exodus from Egypt. Okay. So that's something that they lost the opportunity to do because they didn't help, pretty much is what that sounds like. As God's chosen people, the Israelites should have set an example to the other nations of living holy lives. Ironically, however, God used Ruth, a Moabite woman, as an example of genuine spiritual character. This shows just how bleak life had become in Israel during those days, which I was aware of. Israelites were the promised people, and they were doing a lot of adultery and things like that during this time, or at one point in time. Okay, let's just read that again. As God's chosen people, which are the Israelites, let's just make a note of that. So go back and read this. It's here. Israelites were God's chosen people. Oops. Okay. In the ancient world, almost nothing was worse than being a widow. Oh, dang. These women were taken advantage of or ignored, and they were almost always poverty-stricken. Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm learning something. God's law, therefore, provided that the nearest relative of a woman's dead husband should care for his widow. But Naomi had no relatives in Moab, and she did not know if any of her relatives were alive in Israel. So I'm going to read that one more time for clarification, okay? In the ancient world, almost nothing was worse than being a widow, because widows were taken advantage of and pretty much highly ignored. And they were almost always poverty stricken. You know what? I'm going to write that. During this time, widows were poverty stricken, ignored, and taken advantage of. God's law provided that the nearest relative of a woman's dead husband should care for his widow. Okay, but now my question is, if it's the nearest relative, is it the nearest male relative, or can it be a female relative? I need to write that on my question side. So during this time, widows were poverty stricken, ignored, and taken advantage of. Nearest relative of dead husband should care for a widow. Okay. I really wish I knew how to just get the. It's okay. I'm not even gonna waste my energy talking about it. Okay, what was my question? Oh yeah. What about the nearest dead relative to care for widow has to be a man or woman? How do I just say male or female? Male or female? Because that's what I want to know. Okay. I think this is my hair. I'm already trying to believe it. Even in her desperate situation, Naomi had a selfless attitude. Although she had decided to return to Israel, she encouraged Ruth and Oprah to stay in Moab and start their lives over, even though this would mean extra hardship for her. So at this point, all three of them, the two daughter-in-laws and Naomi, are widows because the two sons died and the husband died. Like Naomi, we must consider the needs of others and not just our own. Okay? Y'all know that. Like Naomi, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and put this in my notes because I know we know this, but we're going to write it. We should consider the needs of others. Where did it go? We should consider the needs of others and not just, and not just our own. Ew, I don't want this period there. Gross. Okay. Like Naomi, we must consider the needs of others and not just our own. As Naomi discovered, when we act selflessly, others are encouraged to follow our example. Okay. Moving on. So that last part that I just read from the bottom was literally from verses 1 through 9. So now I'm going to continue, and then I'll read the other little excerpts at the bottom. You know what I'm saying? Like as we move along, I'm not going to move ahead, and we haven't even read to like those verses yet. Okay, back to the verses, starting with verse 10. Let's just backtrack real quick to 8, verse 8. But on the way, Naomi said to her daughters-in-law, "Go back to your mother's homes, and may the Lord reward you for your kindness. to your husbands and to me. May the Lord bless you with the security of another marriage. Then she kissed them goodbye, and they all broke down and wept. No, they said, we want to go with you to your people. But Naomi replied, why should you go on with me? Can I still give birth to other sons who could grow up to be your husbands? No, my daughters, return to your parents' homes, for I am too old to marry again. And even if it were possible, and I were to get married tonight and bear sons, then what? Would you wait for them to grow up and refuse to marry someone else? No, of course not, my daughters. Things are far more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord himself has raised his fist against me. And again, they wept together. And, oh, I was calling her Oprah. Her name is Orpah. My bad. And again, they wept together, and Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye. But Ruth clung tightly to Naomi. Look, Naomi said to her, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods, which is lowercase, by the way, meaning it's not God, but it's gods, other people, items, things that I guess the Moabites were idolizing. I just wanted to clear that up. I've heard comments about that line before, and like people didn't realize that it was lowercase. So it's not referencing Christ. It's referencing, other type of gods that that particular set of people were choosing to idolize. And that's one thing also a lot of people don't realize as well. Like, I just want to add this in there real quick, that when people say that like they love God or they worship God and things like that, sometimes you really have to be careful and do your best to know, that person's heart, because God is still a general term. Like the Bible says, we will not know his name until he literally comes back. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody knows his real name. So God, we capitalize out of respect when we're talking about, Christ, the Lord, and Yahweh and things like that. But anybody can worship a God, if that makes sense. Like, I think the general term of God is just like, let's just look it up. Let's not make it up. So, and I hope it gives me the general term. Okay, here we go. So the general term of God is pretty much a deity. So like I said, something to idolize. To some people, a moon is their God. The stars are their God. I mean, I don't know, a barrel of water can be someone's God if that's what they want. But like I said, people that believe in Christ, we capitalize the G out of respect. But yeah, just wanted to clear that up. Okay. So in this reference, in this line, God is lowercase, meaning whoever the Moabites or Orpah's people decide to idolize. Okay. All right. Look, Naomi said to her, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods, lowercase. You should do the same. But Ruth replied, don't ask me to leave you and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God, this one is capitalized, because remember, they're from Bethlehem, Israelites, okay? Naomi's people are from Bethlehem, they're Israelites. So this God is now capitalized. And your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us. When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she said nothing more. I'm about to cry, y'all. No, for real. Because what? Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried? What? Wherever you die, yo, I will die, and there I will be buried. Like, talk about love and dedication. What did it say? It said, Naomi and Ruth are extraordinary examples of loyalty, friendship, and commitment. Okay? Ruth said, wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. Yo, I'm sorry, but that is amazing. Like, straight up. Because who's saying that to you? People will be like, oh, I will die for you. Okay, but will you die where I die with me and be buried, or what? Because it's giving, if I die, are you gonna die, and we're gonna be buried in the same place, or are you just gonna die for me, and then I'm just gonna live on without you? Like, come on. Like, wherever you die, I will die. I will be buried. I will stay wherever you are forever. Like, what? Okay, moving on, because it's giving movie line. Perfect. The scene where I start crying in the movie. So the two of them continued on their journey. When they came to Bethlehem, the entire town was excited by their arrival. Is it really Naomi? The woman asked. Don't call me Naomi, she responded. Instead, call me Mara, for the Almighty has made life very bitter for me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me home empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has caused me to suffer, and the Almighty has sent such tragedy upon me? So we're going to go ahead and note that Ruth stayed with Naomi, and Orpah went back to Moab. Okay. All right. Where we at? What happens when I turn the page? Chapter 2. So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by her daughter-in-law Ruth, the young Moabite woman. They arrived in Bethlehem in late spring at the beginning of the barley harvest. Okay, I'm going to put this in my notes. So at the bottom, well, where Naomi says, instead call me Mara, there's an asterisk, okay? I really need my Bible highlighters, but I haven't ordered them yet, but that's okay. And in the bottom, it says, Naomi means pleasant, okay? Mara means bitter. So that is why she says, when the ladies are like, is it really Naomi? She says, don't call me Naomi, which is pleasant. Don't call me pleasant. Instead, call me Mara, call me bitter. And then she proceeds to say, why? Because she feels the Lord has caused her to suffer, losing her sons and her husbands. Also, there's an asterisk near, why call me Naomi when the Lord has caused me to suffer? There's an asterisk there also saying, has testified against me. Okay? So I guess that's another way to say, suffer, or another way to explain how Naomi feels about what happened. Okay. Awesome. So now, down to the bottom. Naomi's comment here, can I still give birth to other sons who could grow up to be your husbands, refers to levirate marriage, the obligation of a dead man's brother to care for his widow. Okay, there we go. There's the answer to one of my questions. It's the brother. The obligation of a dead man's brother to care for his widow. This law kept widows from poverty and provided a way for the family name of a dead husband to continue. All right, so let's go back to the previous slide. Nearest dead relative to care for widow has to be a male, female. We have now got the answer. The answer is obligation of the dead man's brother. And then I believe if there's no brother available, then it will go to maybe cousins, and then maybe up to uncles. But the point is that it has to be a male. Okay? Got it. At least that's what I'm going to assume from what I'm reading so far. Because Naomi had no other sons for Ruth or Orpah to marry, she encouraged them to remain in their homeland and remarry other men. Orpah agreed, which was her right. But Ruth was willing to give up the possibility of security and children in order to care for Naomi, who is now sad, bitter, old, widowed. She feels her life is pretty much not over, but when it comes to that department, she doesn't have much that she can give. So almost like bringing in one of your parents or your grandparents into your home instead of like sending them off on their own or like into a group home. I mean, that's how my mind's kind of, thinking of it. Choosing to care for them and secure them and have them with you, instead of letting them go on their own. Ruth was a Moabite woman, but that didn't stop her from worshiping the true God, nor did it stop God from accepting her worship and blessing her greatly. The Israelites were not the only people God loved. Yes, we know he loved the Gentiles. God had chosen the Israelites to be the people through whom the rest of the world would come to know him. This was fulfilled when Jesus Christ was born as a Jew. Through him, the entire world can come to know God. Acts 10:35 says that in every nation he accepts those who fear him and do what is right. Okay? In every nation he accepts those who fear him and do what is right. Meaning it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. As long as you fear him, you will be accepted, okay? You do not need to be an Israelite. It's okay to be a Gentile. You don't have to be chosen people. It's okay to be a Gentile. God accepts all. God accepts all who worship him. He works through people regardless of their race, sex, or status, which is literally pretty much what I just said. Yes, Lord. The book of Ruth is a perfect example of God's impartiality. Although Ruth belonged to a people often despised by Israel, the Moabites and the Israelites did not get along. I know we already said that, but I'm kind of saying stuff also for me to comprehend as well what I'm reading. I'm one of those people, I need to read it, I need to see it, and I need to hear it. So me repeating it back out loud is also a way for me to receive it, okay? Just so you guys will be like, you're saying the same thing over and over again. Yes, I am. God accepts all who worship him. He works through people regardless of their race, sex, or status. The book of Ruth is a perfect example of God's impartiality. Although Ruth belonged to a people often despised by Israel, she was blessed because of her faithfulness. She became a great grandmother of King David and a direct ancestor of Jesus. No one should feel disqualified to serve God, and God can use every circumstance to build his kingdom. She became a great grandmother of King David. Okay, but I read something earlier. Where was that at? Because that confused me a little bit. It says, where was that? Dang, man. I only read like 2 pages, so why can't I find it? Okay, right here. God let this Moabite widow to a man named Boaz. As a result, she became a great woman every day. Oh yeah, okay. I cleared that up in my mind. Let me check my live, make sure it's going. 49 minutes. We might not be getting through chapter 4. I don't want this to be too long. I'm going to have to do 3 and 4 another time, but I will do 2. Okay. I'm getting hungry. I feel it. I'm getting dizzy. All right. Naomi had experienced severe hardships. She had left Israel married, the mother of 2 sons, and secure. She returned widowed, childless, and poor. Oh, Lord. Child. I'm going to read that again. Naomi had experienced severe hardships. She left Israel married with 2 sons and secure. She returned to Israel widowed, childless, and poor. the way things can really just turn around in life. Naomi changed her name to express the bitterness and pain she felt. Mara, Mir, I'm not 100%, but Mara, which we now knows means bitter. Actually, I want to write that. Did I write that? No. Naomi, pleasant, because that's news to me. Mara, bitter. Awesome. Great. Okay. Learning new things every day. Naomi was not rejecting God by openly expressing her pain. However, she seems to have lost sight of the tremendous resources she had in her relationships with Ruth and with God. When you face bitter times, God welcomes your honest prayers. But be careful not to overlook the love, strength, and resources that He provides in your present relationships. And don't allow bitterness and disappointment to blind you to your opportunities. I think that's very important. Let me read that again. When you face bitter times, God welcomes your honest prayers. But be careful not to overlook the love, strength, and resources that He provides in your present relationships. And don't allow bitterness and disappointment to blind you to your opportunities. So sometimes I feel like, as a people, when we go through things, we get like very upset, very depressed, very stressed, very mad. When we're just down in general, sometimes we can allow ourselves to be so down that we don't really realize or remember who and what we really have. You know what I'm saying? Because we're just so stuck in that moment and that negative feelings that we're currently having that like our mind just doesn't really care or have the strength. Because mental strength, mental health, or having a healthy mental rather, what I'm saying, is real. So it's like when we're down and out, sometimes we don't, at some moments we just don't have the strength mentally to really look at the bigger picture in certain moments. And we kind of fail to realize what is still out there for us, who we still have to be there for us, and the opportunities and the blessings that are actually like coming our way to help get us out of those moments. You know what I mean? Bethlehem was about 5 miles southwest of Jerusalem. Okay, but what is Judah? I'm still trying to figure it out. Bethlehem was about 5 miles southwest of Jerusalem. The town was surrounded by lush fields and olive groves. Its harvests were abundant. Ruth is an ancestor of both David and Jesus. Ruth and Naomi's return to Bethlehem was certainly part of God's plan. In this town, David would be born. Oh yeah, in Bethlehem. Okay. And as predicted by the prophet Micah, so would Jesus Christ. So David and Jesus were born in Bethlehem. I'm still going to put that in the notes for this book. David and Jesus born in Bethlehem. Okay. Where was that? This move then was more than merely convenient for Ruth and Naomi. It led to the fulfillment of God's promises. Okay? Did y'all hear that? This move then was more than merely convenience. It led to the fulfillment of God's promises. So to me, this is, of course, it can be saying other things, but the first thing that kind of comes to my mind now is that, like, you don't know why you're going through the things that you're going through and the reasons for it. And sometimes those reasons are to prepare you for part of your destiny, are to prepare you for your purpose, are to prepare you for what's to come. We might be in hardships now or then in the past, whatever. We might be in hardships at certain times in our life, rather, but it's like those hardships, there's always some type of reasoning behind them, So sometimes you got to take those losses, which I like to call them lessons. You got to take those lessons and do your best to move forward, because a lot of the time it's really just preparation. It's really just preparation and fulfillment of God's promises. You know what I mean? Or leading, the things that we go through are helping lead to the fulfillment of God's promises. So try to like be more positive and optimistic when you're going through things, and just kind of remember that like, hey, this is happening for a reason. I got to stay optimistic and trust God's process, Easier said than done, I know, but because Israel's climate is quite moderate, each year had 2 harvests, in the spring and in the fall. The barley harvest took place in the spring, and it was during this time of hope and plenty that Ruth and Naomi returned to Bethlehem. So Ruth and Naomi returned to Beth. I'm just gonna say Beth for short. During barley harvest. And what was the barley harvest again? We're gonna Google it. The barley harvest took place in the spring, and it was during this time of hope and plenty that Ruth and Naomi returned to Bethlehem. Bethlehem was a farming community, and because it was the time of the harvest, plenty of leftover grain was in the fields. This could be collected and then made into food. Okay, so that explains why when I normally hear about the story of Ruth, they say how like Boaz was like to give her any extra grain, any extra leftovers, because it was so full and abundant in harvest that there was always leftovers. Oh, wow. Bethlehem was a farming community, and because it was the time of harvest, plenty of leftover grain was in the fields. Call me a softie, but I want to cry alone at that, because it's just like they went through all that stuff and God still sent them back to their homeland during the time of plentiful harvest. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? I mean, once again, you can literally go through things and you just have to trust the process, walk along whatever path you feel is necessary, because on the other end of that path, you know what I'm saying, is like great things and blessings. Bethlehem was a farming community, and because it was the time of the harvest, plenty of leftover grain was in the fields. This grain could be collected and then made into food. So next is chapter 2, and it's called Ruth Gleans in Boaz's Field. Glean means to collect. I know that because it's here in parentheses. I'm not even going to do chapter 2 today because we're already an hour in. I thought I'd be able to get through all of it, but now seeing how I'm reading and my commentary, I'm just going to go with the flow. So let's just look at barley harvest real quick, and let's just see if anything different kind of pops up. I'm just kind of curious if it's okay. I'm sorry. So barley is the grain. Got it. So during a specific season, because Israel's climate is quite modern, each year had 2 harvests, in the spring and in the fall. Okay. So in the spring is when they harvest barley. Let me write that down, because I'm not going to hold you. I thought that it was a specific time of year where they just, I don't want to say had an event, but like had something specific happen outside of like just harvesting barley. Like I thought barley was the name that they gave to that season of harvest for like anything, tomatoes, cucumbers, I don't know, strawberries. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm making sense what my mind was thinking, but now I understand. Barley harvest is literally in the spring, they harvest barley, which clearly I don't use when I cook because I didn't know what it was. Or do I use barley? Because they said that it's grain. So it's barley what's in my bagels? Let me put that as one question. What is barley? Yeah. I clearly do not know what barley is. So let's go ahead and just, I'm sure there's other people that also might not know. And that's okay. That's why we read and that's why we learn. So what is barley harvest? I feel stupid. So it says barley is usually harvested from the end of April to the end of May. And summer barley is harvested by between September and October. What is the meaning of barley harvest? Barley harvest is the cutting, threshing, separating, and cleaning of individual barley grains from the mature barley plant. Okay. Okay. I'm going to say barley harvest in the Bible just to see if it, anything kind of different pops up. Just Bible verses about barley harvest. Okay. I don't really see anything like additional. Oh, this was something good. What time of year is the barley harvest in Ruth? At the end of chapter 1, the narrator notes that Naomi and Ruth came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. This would have been in late March or April. And I know I've repeated that several times in a way, but for some reason, reading it there made me want to note that as a piece of information. Naomi and Ruth return. Actually, Ruth and I can put it right here. During barley harvest, I'll put in parentheses late March or April. Late March or April. Oops. Okay. Well, let's put up here chapter 1. Chapter 1. Okay. So, I won't promise on tomorrow because I will feel bad if I say tomorrow and I don't do it. And I just don't want to put that pressure on myself. But we will continue with Ruth chapter 2. Hopefully this week, by the weekend. Okay, once again, I'm using my Life Application Study Guide Bible. I hope you guys can see. Let me go ahead to the StreamYard real quick. I don't really know. Oh, wait. I know the light. Well, there you go. Can you kind of see? I don't know. But, yes. Okay. Oh, here we go. My ring light's kind of, but Life Application Study Bible. I love it. Helps kind of clarify some things, gets my mind thinking, and I always put it in here like this. Okay. So, chapter 1, Ruth. Look forward to chapter 2. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment if you have any additional questions, any additional comments, any additional opinions, anything that you feel that you can add to this chapter for other people to look at, for me to look at, questions for me to even wonder about. That would be amazing. That would be great. You can follow me on Instagram if you want to at ITZMIZZ Montana. It's scrolling along the border of this live stream. It was an amazing time, and I can't wait to catch you next time.